Faker.
다시 뭐 결승전.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Well, the crowd is definitely excited. SKT advancing to the semifinals. Faker, congratulations up first. Talk to me about the series. Dropped the first game, much like at MSI, but then completely took off. What was the experience? How did you reset after game one to go into a 3-1 victory?
우선 4강 진출 축하드리고요. 오늘 경기에서 1경기에서는 RNG 팀의 일격을 맞았는데 금방 경기력을 회복해서 내리 3경기를 이겼습니다. 어떻게 그렇게 바로 리셋을 해서 좋은 경기력을 끌어올렸는지 말씀해 주세요.
제가 1경기 때 손도 좀 많이 차갑고 약간 제가 플레이가 많이 안 돼서 1경기 때 미드 라인에서 압박을 많이 못 넣어줬는데 2경기 때부터는 좀 잘 돼서 그냥 좀 자연스럽게 잘 된 것 같아요.
So at game one, actually my hand was still cold and I don't think I was like warmed up completely, and so I didn't perform too well. But starting from game two, I got to have my games going on and I had some good plays. So I think starting from that point, it was okay for us, yeah.
Well, you did win. It was a very interesting matchup to watch because it was the same one at MSI, but now Uzi was on the roster for RNG. How much different was this matchup versus them as it was to the one at MSI?
MSI 4강에 이어서 다시 한번 RNG 팀을 붙게 되었는데 그 당시 RNG 팀과 다른 점은 이번엔 우지 선수가 로스터에 추가되었는데요. 그 당시 RNG 팀과의 경기랑 이번 경기랑 어떻게 달랐었는지 말씀해 주세요.
그때 당시나 지금이나 좀 강력한 팀인 건 맞지만 그때보다 이번 경기가 저는 좀 더 쉬웠다고 보고 이번 경기에서 좀 상대가 롤드컵 경험도 없고 또 뭔가 약간 긴장된 듯한 플레이를 보여서 저희가 좀 더 쉽게 이겼던 것 같습니다.
So I think like compared to MSI and now RNG is still a really strong team, but actually I think today's game was easier compared to our MSI matchup because I think they were maybe a bit nervous or they were on their like own games. So I think overall today was an easier game for us.
And you guys looked fantastic as well, and that means you're advancing to the semifinal now. And there you will go up against or the Rocks Tigers or EDG, and those are both opponents that you have a lot of history with. So who would you rather face, and why is that?
다음 4강전에서는 락스 타이거즈 팀 또는 EDG 팀과 붙게 되었는데 두 팀 다 SKT랑 매우 사연이 많은 팀들인데요. 그 두 팀 중 어느 팀과 붙길 원하시는지 그리고 왜 붙고 싶어하는지 말씀해 주세요.
저는 어떤 팀이 올라오든 다 재밌을 것 같아서 크게 상관은 없는 것 같고 근데 만약에 EDG가 락스를 꺾고 올라오면은 좀 락스를 꺾고 올라오면 얼마나 강력한가라고 좀 생각을 할 것 같아서 좀 무서울 것 같아요.
So I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup whichever team advances. But if EDG beats Rocks, that would mean that they're a really good team enough to beat Rocks. So that'd be kind of scary for us.
That would be, we'll see. Finally, Faker, there were a lot of cheers here for you today. The crowd absolutely loves you. Well, and North America was also where you won your very first World Championship. Is there anything you want to say to them?
일단 여기 지금 현장에서 많은 팬들이 페이커 선수를 응원해주고 있고 특히 미국은 페이커 선수가 첫 롤드컵 우승을 거둔 나라이기도 한데요. 마지막으로 팬들에게 한마디 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
정말로 미국에 올 때마다 좀 호응이 대단한 것 같고 뭐 이번에 저희가 발전된 모습을 보여주면서 북미 팬들한테 좀 좋은 모습 보여주고 싶네요. 아무튼 많이 응원해 주셔서 감사하다고 말씀드리고 싶어요.
So I'm really thrilled with the crowd reaction whenever I come to the stage to play, and we'll try our best to improve so we can show a better performance. So please keep cheering for us and support us. Thank you.
And that they do. Thank you very much, SKT and Faker in the semifinals. And now Dash is going to wrap up the day for us.
Thank you very much, Shocks. SK Telecom, and we saw right after that game ended, Coach Koma, big smile on his face as he was congratulating his players and probably very proud that they showcased their typical SKT best-of-5 dominance after that game one.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the game 4 happened as well because games 2 and 3, we were kind of able to chalk those up to some RNG mistakes. But this game 4 was just another iteration of an SKT team composition, and they matched RNG's pace of play and just straight up beat them.
And it's a really different team comp from what SKT were running today and mostly throughout the series because it's a really dirty pick comp. They've got so much engage here. Elise, Malzahar, Jin, Zyra, all with long-range engage. Deletion, of course, with the Elise damage and the Malzahar synergy there. And also, the backup is the Zoo element of it. That's the way that Crepo put it. Malzahar, Zyra, and Elise around objectives, either Baron or Drake. They tank up so many of the hits that you're so healthy. You can try these objectives so early, and it's so low risk for the team. And if you face check, we already know the deletion damage is that too.
Yeah, definitely was apparent in the team comp. We saw MLG trying to sneakily play around the Malzahar ultimate. He got at least like 2 or 3 kicks off mid Malzahar ulti. So RNG tried. They had some glimmers of really good play, but it all felt very reactive. It felt like SKT was always in control. Even when MLG made a sick play, suddenly 3 of his team members died. Because SKT was always in a good spot.
We do have to look at this RNG squad, though, and Jat, specifically for Game 4, when we were talking about adjustments that might be made here, looking at champions, like saying, hey, let's get rid of, drop the Elise ban or the Syndra ban. The Elise is handed over. They go for the Aurelion Soul. They tried something very different, and although the chips didn't fall in their favor, that's exactly what we're looking for out of a quarterfinal squad here, to come in and put up the kind of fight that they did and living up to their namesake in Royal Never Give Up.
Exactly. I mean, I would have preferred they didn't ban the Olaf and then tried to run it to Zyra with that, but they still were able to get first blood down in that lane because they wanted to try that matchup over and over again. I thought MLXG played his heart out. I thought Matcha and Uzi started actually making some uncharacteristic mistakes towards the end, and I think they lost to the better team today.
It started out very well with a couple of early kills, and if they kept rolling pattern up from the Aurelion Soul, there was definitely a way RNG could have won this game, but then later on, obviously, there was that one fight from SKT that was the final nail in the coffin for
at the very beginning of this game, we saw Xiao Hu kind of off to the races like he was when he played it in the group stages. But as you just mentioned, the ace that gave SKT the mid-game lead, brought to you by Acer here. This was a delayed ace, but once again, just kind of showcasing that SKT comfortable to play in these scrappy fights just as much as a set-up one.
And this is definitely vintage SKT as the clip revolves. First, they're the first to rotate, which against Aurelion Soul can be tricky. They lead up with the double kill, but just watch the use of summoners and the fact that Faker so far hasn't used his ultimate. He holds his ultimate to so late in the fight, and still summoners are up for SKT.
Yeah, Uzi unfortunately died at the back of that fight, and then at this point, RNG is just trying to make the most out of a bad situation and continually kind of go in one after another, and then MLXG thinks he's going to be able to get away, but it's a delayed ace.
It was actually quite hysterically how Uzi died there. So he was so focused on trying to kite away the enraged Voidlings that he didn't see the volatile spiraling come, and that actually ended up just blowing him up into kill range for the Voidlings. And you saw, the little Malefic Visions bounce at the end, adding insult to injury, and from that point on, it just snowballed. That was a fight that could have went either way. If that cannon ulti sticks a little bit earlier, a little bit different, same page, that's what we were saying just earlier, very reactive from RNG. That's how their teamfights usually go, because they usually go so fast that it's impossible to communicate. That's how usually they win late game teamfights. Problem is, SKT was in the right spot.
Yeah, and SKT is able to communicate at that speed as well. Like, you even look at that goal graph, and that highlights some of the big differences in these teams. Games 2 and 3, we're thinking, RNG handed it to SKT. They gave him a 1,500 gold lead in the early game, and then SKT went on to crush the game. RNG had a 2,000 gold lead in the early game, but SKT is able to stay proactive, make the right turret dives, make the right outplays, and make it not matter, because you have to play the whole 40 minutes if you want to be able to win.
Yep, very much so. And of course, a big part of SKT's victory today is Bang. He's going to be receiving player of the game here with an honorable mention extending to his duo in the bot lane in Wolf.
Yeah, a lot of consistency from Bang in these performances. 2 games on Jin, the single game on Ezreal. He may not have had as many highlight reel plays as often come up in a best of 5 like this, but his consistency with some of the other members like Duke, for example, stepping in and stepping out was notable.
For me, his prowess is really visible in the way he makes decisions that don't really catch the spotlight. There was a chase where he was an Ezreal going after a summoner-less Vladimir, and instead of shifting in just to get the finishing kill credit, he waited a little bit, shifted over Dragon Wall just to do some max range damage, basically making sure he won't die. Very calculated, very the low percentage plays, but always continually pushing out damage in these fights.
And this is kind of Bang, right? He has progressively gotten better and better in the laning phase, but he's always had that amazing teamfight ability to stay in safe situations while still maximizing his damage. Really world-class AD carry.
And let's briefly talk about Wolf, who is behind him there in the bot lane, because coming into the day, we talked about, SKT is allotted a lot of, allowances based on the strength of their solo laners in, say, Faker and Duke, and where that might cover for some of the jungle weaknesses. Well, today, while Duke was having somewhat of a rocky performance at times, it's that bot lane that really stepped up as a whole and allowed them to deal with, say, Looper as a top performer for RNG.
And I was definitely most impressed with Wolf when it came to Zyra team fighting, knowing his role, for example, denying Kennen's positioning and flanks coming in with the Zyra ultimate. His positioning in fights on Zyra, a very squishy mage where if you make a mistake, you die, you get popped, was really commendable. Laning phase, it was more Bang & Wolf. It was the standard things there. Although even them going 2v2 and taking kills off Marta and Uzi is something to point out and commend.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You have to have a lot of confidence to lane against Mata because he will test you at every stage of the laning phase. Yes, he will put himself in dangerous positions, but you have to be a confident, strong player like Wolf in order to match that and then punish Mata for his moves.
Well, a scary SKT moving towards the semifinals here, and with half of our quarterfinal matches played, let's go ahead and take a look at the updated bracket. Samsung Galaxy and SKT have qualified for the semifinal round in New York City. Of course, they're on opposite sides of the bracket. Tomorrow, join us at 5 p.m. local time, 3 p.m. Pacific, as Rocks Tigers go head-to-head with Edward Gaming for the chance to play on stage at Madison Square Garden. Gentlemen, this is another big one we've already talked about. We've got 2 Korean teams in the semifinals, a possible third here. But how are we feeling about this Rocks Tigers EDG matchup?
I mean, Faker said it in his interview, if EDG win that matchup, they're definitely good enough of a contender to challenge SKT, all under the premise because a lot of things are looking at that this SKT versus Rocks matchup in the semifinals will be a very close one.
And look, Rocks were the favorites before we found out the unfortunate information that has to be that emergency sub. Eagle-eyed viewers would have seen Koro on that match graphic. This is a guy who has not played competitively since spring of this year. So it's a big ask for him to come in at such a big stage and make an impact. Mouse was already looked at the weak link. So I imagine the actual narrative of the game, focusing top lane, doesn't change, but it still is an unknown variable for us to consider.
Right? Yeah. And I also do want to say that even though Rocks was the pre-tournament favorite, of the Korean teams, they look the shakiest.
They're third, I have to say.
And while SKT has the track record of improving throughout the duration of an international event, I can't grant Rocks that same certainty. So I'm very interested to see which Rocks Tiger shows up against EDG.
Well, you went where I was going to ask you to go, so thank you for that. That's going to be doing it for us tonight. So stay tuned for another edition of Worlds Tonight, where Shox, Azael, and Kobe will break down all the highlights from today's quarterfinal. It's going to do it for us here in Chicago. Now for myself, the casters, the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.